All right, welcome. So I'm Jaap. I'm a developer advocate with Rubrik. I do a fair bit of blogging, speaking, and I'm quite enthusiastic about automation. And when I say enthusiastic, I want to be as enthusiastic as this guy, but obviously he has way more commits on GitHub than I do. Anyone contributing to open source here? Couple of people? Yeah? Good. So, what we have for you today, I'll be starting a bit about infrastructure management, where we came from. Then we'll dive into the tools we have available with VMware. What can we use to actually manage vCenter, vSphere? VMware code, what is it? What can we do with it? And then at the end, I'll end with a demo on the Python SDK. Cool. So we're coming from a time where it was many to one server. So over 50 years ago, whenever the mainframe was supposed to be managed, there were dozens of people managing a single system. And nowadays, with the advances in automation and manageability of systems, it's actually quite common that we manage where a single administrator is managing hundreds of servers. And in some cases, when the environment is very uniform, it can be a single admin for thousands of servers. I think I heard a number of AWS where a single admin manages more than a couple thousand servers. So, sorry about that. So managing VMware, there's obviously a lot of different tools available to us. We have the vSphere client, the web client, and the FAT client. We have PowerCLI, ESX CLI, and we have the APIs and SDKs. So what are some of the downsides and upsides for the different tools we have available? So for example, if we work with vSphere, it's obviously, when you're using the web client, it's going to be cross-platform, because any platform that has a browser, you can manage your vSphere environment. It's easy to use, because everyone can click around in a graphical user interface, but it's limited in functionality in the sense, if you want to do more than one thing, for example, you want to create 50 different VMs, it's obviously not going to be the right solution, unless you're paid by the hour and you really like to click using your mouse. So there's no potential for automation there. And also, because of the FAT client and the web interface, there were also differences between how it looked and how it worked, and some of the functionality was available in one client and not in the other. Then we have PowerCLI. So PowerCLI is the module that obviously runs on top of PowerShell, and ESX CLI. And both have a steeper learning curve, because if you want to be able to use PowerCLI effectively, you need to know PowerShell, and that will take some time. And if you need to use ESX CLI, you'll have to know all the switches and in which combination you can actually use them. There's a lot of functionality exposed this way, and you can completely automate it. Cross-platform, I put it as yellow. So with PowerShell being open source now, you can use PowerCLI on Linux, you can use it on your Mac, but not all modules not all PowerCLI modules fully support PowerShell Core yet. So a quick demo to showcase what the advantage of PowerShell is. So if we look here, we can see the OS, what's it called? And new VM. And with new VM, we can see there's a lot of parameters here. And if you wanted to put all this into a GUI, obviously you would end up with a GUI where you just have too many options. So that's the power of automation and scripting, is by having a single command, you can actually you can expose a lot of functionality that if you would put it in a graphical user interface, it would be very confusing. So this was a single commandlet that already took up a couple of screens of information, and there's over 600 in PowerCLI. So I think that's a strong case for automation. So moving on, we have APIs. So APIs are cross-platform. I think it's the steepest learning curve because you have to directly interact with the APIs. And similarly to PowerCLI and ESX CLI, you have all the functionality and you can fully automate it. So if you want to learn more about the APIs, there's a VMware code website. There's extensive documentation available here. And if you want to get started, the bottom left corner has the API Explorer. So moving on, there's also the Python SDK. So that's our fifth option. And using the Python SDK, so this is more focused for developers that want to write their own integrations with vSphere. Can clone this GitHub repository, and in the next demo I will give a short introduction to how you can get started and actually deploy a VM using the VMware Python SDK. So we start out with a shell. We do a git clone, so we clone the repository. I've already done that here because it's quite a big download. And then we'll switch over to VS Code. So VS Code is just a code editor. And what we'll do is we'll jump into setup.python, and if we take a look there, I don't have all the correct plugins installed. You can see all the requirements that will be installed the moment we kick off this setup script. So after we have all the required software installed to run this Python module, we'll dive into the samples, and we'll take a look at how we can actually deploy a VM to vCenter. So you can see we go into vCenter, we'll go into the setup, and we'll go down to testbed.python. We go to the top, we can see we can put our credentials here. So I'll replace admin by my own name. I'll put the password in there, and I'll put the correct server in there. After that, there's a couple more options that we can configure. We don't have to. For example, data center, which data store we want to use. I'll scroll down to that one in a second. So you can see we have the config blocks here. We can replace that, put some quotation marks there. And then after this, we'll jump over to the samples. And in the samples, I'll show the create VM command that's available. So the setup file is now saved and stored. So we're in vCenter, we're going to create a VM. You can see at the top are all the classes that we are importing. And if we go down, we can see there's a couple of required values, because obviously you need to name your VM and you need to supply what kind of data store you want there. And now if we would run this command in Python, we would create a VM, and I'm scrolling down right now. What we can see here is that it will actually output what kind of configuration is applied to this VM. So in summary, if we want to manage VMware, vSphere, it doesn't matter what kind of tool you like to use, but the direction we're moving in is it's going to be more automation rather than less automation. So if you're still completely focused on the GUI, go to VMware code, take a look at the starting guides that are available, the SDKs, whichever language you're most familiar with. Consume the resources that are there, and if you end up building something cool, contribute something to either VMware code or on GitHub, because it's a learning experience for you and you help the broader community as well. And that's it for me. Thank you very much.